All right, welcome back. This is our Your Story podcast. I got the one and only Matt Borsh, the president of FFL Inception, and excited to have him on. This is a red jacket guy, Hall of Fame guy, who's now got a Hall of Fame agency and is doing amazing things with his partner Mike. But wanted to get him on to our Your Story podcast to dip into the life of the man, Borsh, we call him, and get a better feeling for who he is and how he's gotten to this place that he's at, which has been life-changing for him. So, Matt, I got you on, brother. How you feeling, man?
Doing well, man. It's always good to be with you, Mark. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. And this is, one of my favorites simply because we get to learn a lot about people in a very short period of time. But if you could kind of walk us down the path to, some of the things that, made you the man you are today and also the businessman that you are today. Because where you were when you started with us, you're in a whole different place today. But now that we have a much fuller picture, you and I both know how all things work together. And I want the audience to find that out about you today. So thank you for hopping on with me, bud.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me and letting me share my story. I remember when I first started hearing agents sharing their stories, you hear a lot of trauma or overcoming of adversity and stuff, the stuff they make movies about and write books about, and when I was younger, so like a year ago, no, but when I was younger, I would think, oh man, I don't have any of that stuff, so my story is not as special, people don't want to hear it. But what I realized over time is, as you start growing a business, you start meeting so many people and talking to so many people, and I realized that I'm not the only one who feels like I'm not that special. I kind of look at myself, I joke with people, I'm aggressively average, right? But I think a lot of people can relate to that. So, taking it back, had a very loving mom and dad, and I was very blessed with that. The older I get, the more I realized how rare that is.
That's awesome.
It's not easy to
Absolutely.
stay in a marriage and to raise kids and provide for them. And my parents did just that and still do to this day. So I love and appreciate them for that. I grew up very religious, very Christian, and still remain to this day. So church was a big part of my life. Going through school, school always came easy to me, and I never pursued sports at a super high level. It was because they didn't come naturally to me, and I didn't like pushing myself, and school came easy. So looking back, I realized that was that wasn't great, that I looked at it that way. I never pushed myself. I was going into college and had never really challenged myself at any major level.
Dude,
And
I worked so hard in school.
right.
Like, how can you, I don't think I've heard anyone say it the way you just said it. Like, it just came so easy to me. What is that like? How does that play out in the classroom? How did that play out in grade school and high school? How did that play out?
I don't know, man. I don't have kids yet, so I think once I have kids, I'll start to put more pieces of the puzzle together. My mom was a teacher before she had me, and then she teaches now. She kind of paused while she was raising us, but I'm sure that played a role into it. I had help and support at home. It wasn't just, all right, take this home and figure it out kind of a thing.
Got it.
So I'm sure that played a huge role in it. And I'll probably, figure that out more down the road. But it was one of those things where I saw it and I got it. And I know that's rare, especially for guys. Most guys are more hands-on than book learning. So it worked like that for me. Got into college, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with my life. College is a big decision for pretty much everyone. And I didn't know really which route I wanted to go. But I knew that I wanted to, find someone and raise a family and be in church. And I felt like, school came fairly naturally to me, and it doesn't for most. And I always loved helping my students out if they were struggling with like homework or something. So I thought, hey, maybe teachers the route to go for me. So I go to college, a small Christian college here in Northwest Indiana. And my thought process was real deep. It was, hey, I'm either going to learn something or find a wife or both. And I'm happy with any of those three options. So I go to school for secondary education, teaching English, and met my wife Cynthia. And we won't go that deep into that story. We can do a whole episode just on our relationship and how we ended up together. So that's a fun drama there. But we made it. We've been married almost 6 years now, so
Nice.
that's been a huge blessing. I student taught my last semester. Student taught, and I realized, holy crap, I don't have the patience to teach high schoolers English for a living. They don't want to be there, and they weren't all that excited to learn. As a rule of thumb, like they weren't excited to learn most days. So I'm coming here excited
Wow.
to teach
Wow.
and impart this knowledge, and they're like, why do I need this? I don't need this. And I realized that I didn't have the patience for that. So I was like, well, that's probably not a great route to go. Yeah. So during college, I was paying my way through. So college was one of the first times where I felt tested, because I took a 4-year degree, finished in 3.5 years. So I was always taking a pretty full credit load. I was working a full-time job. I was trying to get married, dating my wife, and then also running a bus ministry on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays for our church. So sleep and free time were definitely not very common there. So that was challenging. It really forced me to be more organized, and it kind of pushed me farther down that road that I already tended towards, and kind of managing different things. And then from there, that job that I had through college was at True Green. That's where I met Mike. He was my first sales manager ever. So that was my first sales job. He was my first sales manager. So he taught me how to go door to door and sell fertilizer and weed control to people that didn't want me there.
Really? Was he the
And yeah,
hiring manager? Did he hire you?
so he was hiring so many people that the GM was the one that did my interview.
Got it.
But yes,
Got
basically
it.
he gave it the final approval,
Got
and
it.
then did my training and all that. So
Wow. That's
that was
great. I don't think
so
I've
that's
heard that.
yeah.
I didn't think
So
I knew that.
that's how we met.
Okay, got it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then worked that job and worked with him for 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior year of college. So that's where I learned to kind of come out of myself a little bit. Naturally, I feel like I'm a little more reserved, but between teaching and sales, both of those require you to come out of yourself to communicate something.
Got it.
And so I feel like that kind of helped draw that out to where I don't necessarily naturally do that, but I learned to flip the switch when I need to.
Got it.
You get up in front of the classroom, you flip the switch.
Got
When a
it.
client's there, you flip the switch.
Got it.
And so I learned to do that a little bit there. It helps with rejection if you do door-to-door sales. It definitely helps teach the rejection a little bit.
Well,
Still not as much as you would think, because it was still a big learning curve when I started dialing the phones here.
What made you get into door-to-door? Like, what made you go, I'm going to try this door-to-door sale? Like, how did that?
Oh, it was real easy. It wasn't deep. It was $13.25 an hour guaranteed plus commission. And when you're a broke college,
Real
kid
deep.
making $10 an hour salary.
Hey, so I heard about this place called True Green paying $13.25. You want to go apply?
Yeah, it was real deep.
Got it.
And there were quite a few college kids. They had a relationship because Mike had gone to the college that I went to.
Okay,
the GM
got it.
had gone to the college that I went to. So they had kind of a relationship there. A lot of the guys went there at some point in time.
Makes sense.
So yeah, it wasn't super deep. I didn't search it out all that much. It kind of found me. So yeah, so I did that for 3 years. Graduated college, got married, and took a promotion there, all within the same 3-4 time month span. So life got real different real quick for me. It went from zero free time between all this different stuff to now I'm married. Now I'm working a 9 to 5 instead of a second shift door-to-door sales position. And I'm done with college. So that was a big change back in 2017. Was when all that happened. So then I did that account manager job for 3 years, and it was fine. But the problem was, looking back, I reverted back to my comfort stage. And so I would go to work. I was salaried plus a little bit of commission. I would work maybe a legitimate 10 to 15 hours a week of actual work. Act like I was working hard because I was getting paid for a full-time job, and did that for 3 years. So I got real complacent again. Looking back, if we're being brutally honest, and complacency doesn't get you anywhere fun. right? And so I was paying my bills, just kind of getting through life. But I had bigger goals. Like I wanted to, when we eventually start a family, I didn't want Cynthia, my wife, to have to work a job. If you wanted to, fine, but I didn't want her to have to do that financially for us to be able to support our family. And where we were at the time, we were paying our bills, but I still needed her income. And so it was like, okay, how do I make an extra 25,000 just to break even? Let alone kids are going to cost more from everything I've heard, and twins running our family. So if kids
And
are coming,
twins
they're
running our
probably coming
family.
quick.
That's
Yeah.
scary. That's scary stuff. Like I'm a man, I get it. Like this burden of like that's pretty scary stuff. And when you don't have the kids, it's probably even scarier. Like this like
Yeah.
twins running our family. That's bone chilling because it's
Right.
like, whoa, I don't want to deal with this,
Yeah.
especially right now. So I follow.
Yeah. So that's kind of the stage that we were at for 3 years. And I didn't like where I was at or what I was doing. I didn't have any passion for it whatsoever. It was just show up, and I was friends with a lot of the people around the office, but it wasn't challenging whatsoever. And it lulled me into a lot of complacency. I didn't want my boss's job. I didn't love the industry. So I was interviewing all over the place to try to get out of that. And it didn't seem like anything was working out, and I was getting really frustrated. I was like, God, what are we doing here? I was researching how to type up the best resume, how to interview well, how to present yourself. Why do interviewers always ask these weird ethereal questions? You know, what would you do in these scenarios? I was like diving into all this, and dude, I couldn't land anything. I was getting really, really annoyed. I was looking at all kinds of different stuff. And then sure enough, spring of 2020, a couple buddies of mine from college and high school approached me with what I would have sworn to you at the time was an MLM. I was like, all right, guys, you can pound sand real quick. I got a mortgage, I got a wife, I've got a salary. Like, I know that salary plus commission is the way to go. I'm never going to sell insurance. I'm not going to be that guy. The problem was they hadn't answered. Yeah, Gabe still laughs. We were just talking to the new agents yesterday about that first conversation that he had with me about this. And dude, I was stone cold. I wasn't giving him anything. I didn't want anything to do with it.
Crazy.
But I wasn't happy with where I was at, what I was doing, or where I was going. And I feel like what I try to do and what I try to talk to agents about, most people don't check all three of those boxes. And so when you're trying to talk to new agents about this opportunity, it doesn't have to be some huge sales pitch. Are you happy with what you're doing, what you're making, and where you're going? And if any of those are a no, they should consider us to some extent.
Love that.
Might not mean we're a good fit, but I wasn't happy with any three. And so eventually they had an answer to every question that I couldn't refute. I thought it was a scam. They're like, well, you got to be licensed with the state and you have to do all this licensing and background checks with the carriers and all this stuff. So, and we're working with A-rated insurance companies. So that didn't work. And they were showing me very large paychecks, especially compared to what I was making at the time. I was bringing in about 70,000 gross, maybe 80,000 on a good year gross. And they're making more in a week and sometimes a couple of days, and I'm making in a 2-week paycheck. Right. And so I'm like, man, I don't see it being consistent, but then I did see it being consistent. The week after week, I would, put them off, but then they keep coming back. Like, hey, we're holding this thing. When is it coming? And so, yeah, I couldn't refute it, and I still didn't believe it. But they said, hey, you don't have to quit your job before you try this out. Just at least get your license and make a couple of calls, run an appointment or two, just to see what it is. It doesn't hurt. And then if you like it, then jump. So that's what I did.
Well, real quick, before you go there, how's this conversation with your wife? Because now your knees are getting weak. I mean, at some point, you're like, absolutely not. These guys are off their rocker. And then eventually your knees are getting weak. So maybe at one point you told your wife, there's no shot. But then your voice maybe starts to tremble a little bit. I want to hear how that went.
It's not that exciting of a conversation, just because Cynthia's always been a super trusting and supportive. I helped her out through college, and I had saved money and helped pay for the wedding and take us on a honeymoon, get us into our first house.
Got it.
So
you had the credibility.
thankfully she was very supportive
Got
of,
it.
okay, I trust that you're not going to bankrupt us and get us kicked out of our house kind of
Got
a
it.
thing. I'm sure she was nervous and she expressed a little bit of that, I think, but nothing to the
Got
extent
it.
of pulling back. So I'm very thankful for that because I
No
know a
doubt.
lot of people, especially if you have kids and
Right.
you're well established in your career, that's a scary move if you're in that situation,
Right.
Um,
But they
so
made
that
it easy
wasn't
for
too
you. They
crazy.
said it was,
Yeah.
you don't have to quit your job.
Yeah, exactly. You just try it out, prove that we're a scam, basically, is what it was. It was like, hey, if you really think
That's
this
really
isn't
good.
real, prove it. So I did. So I came in
That's
and
crazy.
didn't plug in and I didn't work that hard. I brought my same lazy, complacent attitude over here, and we all know how that went. I called through all my leads once and booked 2 or 3 appointments for that first weekend and went and talked to I sat down with 2 families. One of them, I sat down on their back patio in my sport coat, dressed up, trying to overcompensate, nervous as could be. It's one of those things where I remember sitting in the driveway, scared out of my mind
Wow.
to go in there. They take me out to the back patio, offer me coffee, and I immediately spilled the entire mug all over their back patio and their
Whoa.
rug.
Whoa.
It was like a sitcom. I'm like seeing myself in the third person. Like, what am I doing right now? Oh my goodness. So didn't close them. Didn't close them. Didn't help them out.
That's great.
Oh man. And then only sat with one other person that day. Didn't help them out either. Weird health issues. Didn't know how to approach it. Didn't
Right.
reach out in the home for help. So I'm calling Gabe after, and I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like, this didn't work. He was like, hey, I mean, you didn't get that much shots on goals. Try it again. And keep in mind, he was like 2 months into the business at that point too. So he was doing okay, but still figuring out, for himself a lot of it too. So like an insane person, I did the exact same thing, expecting different results the next weekend, and got the same results. So now I'm $1,000 into leads.
Oh boy.
Barely have worked them. There were Facebook final expense leads that I didn't door knock. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Called them all through once. Didn't text them. Didn't leave voicemails. Didn't door knock.
Wow.
So barely can say that I've worked them. So in my mind, I've worked 2 weekends, but I've worked about a total of 4 hours. I took my salaried mindset into this business, and lo and behold, it didn't
4
pay me
hours.
money. And so now I'm $1,000 into what I would have sworn to you wasn't real, but I started to realize like, dude, I'm just lazy. That was a tough pill to swallow.
When did you swallow that, and how did you swallow that?
I mean, it was a reality check. It was like, these guys are doing the same thing that I'm doing, same leads, same process. Like, they're telling me to do exactly what they're doing. Like, they're not some VP of sales saying, back in my day I would do this and this, but I've never sold your product. They were literally doing what I was doing.
Wow.
Being successful with it.
Wow.
But it was my fault because I wasn't working hard and I wasn't trying to copy and paste at a level of desperation what they were doing. I was like, oh, I'll take this and try that, but I'm going to leave this, this, and this because I know better because I've sold fertilizer. So I was bringing this ego and this complacency in with me, and I made it impossible for myself.
Real quick,
but I wanted to make
Borsh,
it work. Go ahead.
And you're getting into it now, but talk about the power of the fact that you knew these guys. Like, you're basically the whole time saying no, 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 no. And then you bring, as you say, bad habits into a new thing. And we talk about the power of warm markets so much. And I don't think everyone wants, or maybe they don't want to grasp the full power of it. But dude, how likely are you to dig your heels in if you came in off of a resume versus the
0%
fact
chance that I'd still be there. 0% chance. Not where we were at. I like to think with more structure and better training, you increase your chances. But back then, dude, 0% chance. 0% chance.
So the fact that you knew these guys was a huge thing. Like, they're showing you stuff that you actually believe is real, and it's forcing you to challenge yourself. Yes?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think another part of it was ego and pride. Come on, if Gabe can do it,
Yeah. It's huge.
come on, come
Ha.
on. I've known Gabe for 5 years. If he can do it, right? So I think, on the flip side of that, if we're talking to an agent that's here but scared to talk to the people that they know or tell anyone that they're doing what they're doing, like I was for the first 6, 7 months in this business, you got to get over yourself. It doesn't matter what people think about you, because if they're judging you, it's not an opinion that you should care about anyway. If they're the type of person that judges someone, especially for something like this, like we're not doing anything shady or weird or bad or illegal or any, like,
Right.
we're truly helping people with something that you can't argue that life insurance is important.
Right.
Like, we know it is. So if you're scared that people know what you're doing, it's an ego thing. At least it was for me. There might be other options, but that's about the only thing that I can think of, because that's what it was for me. And then it's also like, dude, get over yourself. If you can do it, other people can do it as well, and they might even be able to do it better than you if given the chance.
Right.
But I mean, we're tiny. We like to think we're big and we're growing, but we're not a name brand. We're not a household name, and people don't know about us. They might know you sell something. They might know you're in financial services. They might know you do insurance, but do they know that they can do it if they work hard? Do they know that they have that shot too to change their lives?
Right.
So that was the struggle for me on that flip side of it. But as the new agent, 100%, knowing Gabe, knowing who he was, seeing his transparency and seeing what he was doing and just being able to copy that made all the difference in the world.
No doubt. Wow.
100%. So that was the first couple weeks. So Gabe saw that I was invested in it, financially, and he didn't want me to fail. And so he told me on a Wednesday afternoon, he was like, "Hey, I've got this appointment that I can't make it to," which, looking back, I'm sure he could have, but he was like, "Hey, I've got this appointment I can't make it to. Can you go run it for me?" I had to reschedule with them, but they seemed pretty interested. So after work, I drove out to their house and met with a husband and wife in my sport coat. I was looking sharp. I was looking the part. 2.5 hours later, Mark, 2.5 hours later, I was walking back out of their house, and we helped them both out with the policy. I had never signed into the AmAm portal. She had gotten declined with Americo, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never even signed in. I'm digging through emails, trying to make small talk, sweating profusely at their kitchen table, trying to figure out what's going on here. Lord knows what's going on in their mind throughout it, but I was able to help both of them out with the policy. And then from there, walked out of that appointment, had about a 30-40 minute drive back home. So I'm calling my wife, I'm calling Gabe, I'm like, I got to do this. Like, I suck so bad, but like, I showed up, I put in some work, and just made what I normally make on a 2-week paycheck in a 2.5 hour appointment, and I'm terrible. So how can I not do this then? At that point, that's where it kind of clicked for me. It was like, okay, like, I can suck, but at least I can make money while sucking. And then hopefully eventually I can get as good as Gabe. So that was the thought that got me in. And at that point, I didn't overthink it. I just said, okay, I'm doing this. So I turned in my 2 weeks notice, and started full-time July 1st of 2020. So that was the entry into the business. Amazing. And it's been a ride since then.
Wow. That's so amazing. I mean, and again, we're sitting on this industry that, upon first look, most people are like, get out of here. There's no way I would ever sell life insurance, right? Because no one grew up to do that. There's not a person in grade school that says, when I grow up, I want to be a life insurance agent, right?
No one says that about fertilizer and weed control either, and that's where I was.
I wonder how much your door-to-door experience, because I can picture you sweating profusely, trying the small talk. I mean, it's hard to get in someone's house when you door knock them cold. So you've had some ability to kind of move and shake a little bit.
I don't know, Mark. Honestly, looking back, I I think it helped a little bit with the rejection tolerance, a
Yes,
little
that's
bit.
I think where I was
But
headed.
dude, the phone still kicked my butt.
Yeah.
I still didn't want to dial. I still hated getting told no and F off. And I've been door knocking people for 3 years. So I like to think it helps a little bit. But I was, at the end of the day, to me at that time, that was still a job. I still had a salary. If I made a sale, it was nice. But if I didn't, as long as I put in the activity, I knew I wasn't getting fired. So it didn't give me that edge. I was still complacent. It didn't give me that edge that I needed. And this business has been the first thing for me that's given me more of an edge. Sports do that for a lot of people. I think military does that for a lot of people. Trauma or tough upbringings does that for a lot of people. But I didn't have any of that, which is, a blessing and a curse, depending on how you look at it. But I think at some point, in order to excel at any level in life, you have to be challenged. That's how growth works in any area, whether it's the gym or the church house or your relationship or business.
Right.
And so for me, this was the first thing. Marriage and this were some of the first things that really challenged me.
It's amazing though, because every time, when I see your face, I immediately think of your trajectory and the way you inquired from season to season to season to season. And all the inquiries were about growth, like in bushels of growth. Like it wasn't like it's so funny because it wasn't like you were trying to like paint this kind of ladder deal. It was always like, all right, I got this grip, I need the next grip. Yeah. And that's the challenge you're talking about. Not many people want to grip the thing level by level. Yeah. What made you want to do it that way? Obviously, it's paid huge dividends for you. But what made you want to? Where was your mind that you started to see the business unfold where you were trying to grab it in chunks?
I think I can point to two things or two ideas. One is kind of like my personality a little bit. If I care about something or I'm passionate about something, it needs to get done perfectly. Like I'm not okay with it not getting done right. Got it. But if I don't care about it, whatever. And when it comes to this business is your life. You are the business. The business is you. You're a business owner. This is it. It's right. Just you. And so once I realized how complacent I was, how lazy I was, how much I sucked, it kind of jolted that reality. Like, hey, dude, wake up, or you're gonna miss out on this opportunity. Because I do see this as a once in a lifetime opportunity. Now, it's not a click now or miss out on the deal kind of thing, right? It's about timing, right? You got to make sure the timing's right for you and your family. But this opportunity with what we have here at FFL and in this industry and the time that we're at, that's what I saw it as and chose it to be for me and my family. Hey, this is how I'm going to get to those dreams that I was too scared to even say out loud because of how preposterous they were. I have an unaccredited degree from a small Christian college. I've got a fairly halfway decent resume in fertilizer sales. Like that's not going to get me where I wanted to go anytime soon. So I'm over here looking at this corporate ladder of decades to eventually hopefully get to the point where I don't have to choose between my wife getting her hair done and helping out that missionary family at church.
Right. That's crazy.
I want to be able to do both. But where I was at, unless I was following Dave Ramsey's envelope system perfectly, which I never did, I never had that money to do both. And so I saw this opportunity as my chance to do both and not have to pay my dues for 40 years.
Yeah, that's so
it's,
well
hey, go
said.
pay your dues for 3 years, for 4 years, and buy all of that time back. It's still going to be hard work. You're doing 40 years worth of hard work in 4 years.
Right.
But would you rather take 40 years to do that hard work or 4 years? And for me, it was a no-brainer.
Man, that was very well said, man. there's so much more we can unpack here, but I mean, what an incredible story, that's still being written, and the fact that, you're just a walking example of what doing can do and not just talking or not just acting. You actually do and did and do. And it's like, it's a breath of fresh air, man. I've always been a huge fan of yours, and just watching you, continue to take ground in this business and see your business acumen grow. It's been awesome. It's been one of my favorite front row seats, just watching you do what you do, because you're still very young, man. And, you're moving and shaking things, Mike. So that's pretty awesome, man.
Do we have time for two more thoughts?
Yes, sir. Please.
That I can throw out to everyone out there.
Yes.
I'll make it quick, but I appreciate you saying that. Joe and I were just talking about that recently, how this business is so cool. And I was talking to a new agent that I'm going to be working with from college days and from True Green days too. So I'm excited about that. But one of my favorite parts about this business is the 80-20 rule. 20% of the people will do 80% of the volume, and that applies to a lot of different industries and stuff. But the 20% here is a really, really awesome group of people.
Right.
Really awesome group of people. And what I love so much about it, and one of my driving factors, this will come as a shock to you, I'm sure, but I was never the cool kid in school. and that always bugged me. Because the cool kids were the good looking kids, the athletic kids, the funny kids, right? And you don't choose any of those things.
Right.
That's who you are, and you work with it, you run with it. But what I love about this business is the 20% chooses itself here.
Nice.
The 20% chooses itself here.
I love that.
And that's what I've always dreamed of. A cool crowd of people that aren't, maybe they're talented or good looking or funny, but that's not why they're cool.
Wow.
They're cool because they work hard, they care about people, and they're very generous.
That's
and
awesome.
I feel like that's the 20% here.
Jeez, that's so good.
So all that to say, I appreciate you saying that, because you're that 20%. And ever since we've met, I've enjoyed getting to know you more. And it's not I always looked at it as, I want to get to know you more. So let me join that club. Let me position myself in such a way that I can do that. And so I love that about the business. And then the last thing that I want to throw out there, because I've been talking to several agents about this recently, it's been on my heart. I feel like a lot of people lie to themselves about what they want or what they're willing to do to get there.
Right.
And that was one of the things that I had to come to terms with very early in the business. But I feel like a lot of agents don't do that. They say, oh, I want to build a massive agency. I want to have that integrity pin. I want to be a Hall of Famer, right? And the list goes on and on and on, but those are the big three.
Right.
And I look back to, meetings that I had when I was first getting to know you, and the groups of people that were there, and they're not here anymore.
Right.
It's not because it's a complicated business,
Right.
but they lied to themselves about what they wanted or what they were willing to do to get there. And so that causes frustrations. And anytime you go into anything, whether it's a relationship or a business or really anything, the gym, and you have the wrong expectations, you get frustrated and you stop. If I expected to look like freaking Chris Hemsworth by going to the gym for a week, I'm going to stop going to the gym really quickly. And I feel like that's what a lot of agents do in this business. Is they think, hey, this lead's going to buy right away. I'm going to be a top producer next week. I'm going to have a massive agency in a year. And instead of getting their expectations from somewhere that's been there and done that, like yourself, they get their expectations from thin air, it seems like. And it's like, don't do that to yourself, because you're shooting yourself in the foot, and you're literally handicapping yourself from being able to see that success because you started off with the wrong expectations. Expect it to be hard. Expect it to be 40 years worth of work in 4 years. But if you want that result and you're willing to put in the work, it is there to be had. And that's been my experience so far. And I appreciate you introducing me to it and helping me along the way.
Man, that's so good. It's so, again, so well said, so true, and just, again, refreshing to hear because you're basically saying, hey, you can do this too if you're willing to manage your expectations, set the right expectations and manage them and put in the hard work. And I think that's life, man. That's life. You know, you do have to manage expectations. And we are, as you know, Borsh, we're in the heavy expectation management business. And the truth is we're managing our expectations the most, right? I help people manage their expectations every day, but I'm managing my expectations the most.
I'm preaching myself just as much as anyone watching.
Does that make sense? So, very well said, man. Tremendous story. Hey, thanks for jumping on with us and sharing, what is just the beginning of going to be a great, great, great life and book and story. Appreciate you serving and doing all you do to help people, brother. You're a real one and a pillar, especially in our group. So
appreciate that, man. Appreciate you leading from the front and still being willing to help those that are coming behind you.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody, on our Your Story podcast. Matthew Borsh, the boss. Appreciate you guys. Take care.